never follow a crafter to a third location. Oh, hi, I'm Jo. Welcome to Sewing Nerd Studios, and let's talk some statistics. I'm excited to share some graphs and pie charts that I made, but I do have a big pile of orders to put together, so let's catch up while I start wrapping those. Right after Christmas, I got a little panicky because I realized I had only made 2 Etsy orders for the entire month. And December is typically when that stuff ramps up, like November and December, which led to me spending a lot of time doing one of the things I'm best at, which is giving myself a hard time. Thankfully, I also had a therapy session booked within this window, and my therapist really made me face reality, which is I went absolutely bonkers doing markets the past couple months. I started running a themed trivia night as a freelancer, all while working on building up my alterations clientele and trying to make that a thing. Also, listen, I'm a person blessed with regular depression, but seasonal depression on top of it, and we are in the depths of winter. Basically, I'm running at like 70% after daylight savings happens in like late October until we actually see daylight again come spring. And now that I'm starting to recognize that pattern of me not being as useful, not that my entire self-worth needs to be based on my productivity, but I'm definitely just running at a lower level this time of year, and I'm starting to like accept that and work with myself during those times. I have one whole market planned for the entire month of January, and that's it, which gives me the time and space, cue the Mighty Boosh theme song, to shift my focus onto my online presence. Something cool I did notice about my Etsy shop in December is that I was oh so close to 500 sales. I'm talking all-time sales, which I think as of this year spans a decade, and it's definitely not talking about like this current year. Not this current year, we're in 2024 now. I mean 2023. So when I saw that, it was like December 30th, I think. I stepped out of my comfort zone and did a thing that I'm bad at doing, which is asked for some help reaching that goal. Obviously, it's no pressure. I can't force people to buy stuff. I only want people to buy things for my shop if they want it, and I just try to put a good quality product out there with my personality in it. And as of midnight on New Year's Eve, we did not hit that goal, but we got pretty close, which I still feel good about. I'm not viewing it as a failure. Bumped my order numbers from 2 to 8 for the month, which is quadrupling it. And we went from 482 total sales, not orders. Sales are like per item. Orders are the number of like times people make purchases. So my lifetime order total is actually 353, but a bunch of those included more than one item. So that is why the sale total is almost 500, just in case that didn't make any sense. So yeah, we went from 482 to 491. I needed 18 to get me to 500, and we made 9. So getting halfway there is better than I was expecting, to be honest. And that still feels really cool. So yes, still a win. And that's another goal to have for this year. Maybe by the end of January, I'll hit that goal. It's just kind of a random number to work towards, and my value as a human does not hinge on surpassing that number or not. I'm saying this to myself as much as I am to you all. All right, so since we're already talking Etsy numbers, let's look at my monthly graph that I put together. As you can see, we had a spike earlier in the year. I think that was just because I had a gap between markets during that like late winter, early spring time, then almost nothing for the middle of spring. And then once we hit May, that is when I stopped doing markets for myself for the season because I had some really, really rough outdoor markets. We will get to those types of events further on. Don't worry, I also made graphs for that. So in addition to kind of giving up markets for a little while because I was just absolutely defeated. And May is when I lost the uniform store job, and I was expecting to get work from them for the rest of the year, just getting stuff dropped off to me instead of me going to the store because they closed the storefront. But I have yet to hear from that boss. But so that income stream just completely stopped. So I definitely put a big push into doing Etsy stuff and working on my business Instagram and just like focusing on more online sales starting around May. And then summer's always like a who knows type of season for me for sales in Etsy. I feel like a lot of people it slows down, but that's also my busy season with the brewery. So it ends up evening out kind of because I'm doing a ton of farmers markets. I do some brew fests and stuff like that. It's typically a busier time of year for me for the one bit of work I do that's not for myself, and that's great. I think it's good to kind of break it up. Also, I'm getting paid no matter how things go at the farmers market. Obviously, I try to like be a good salesperson for the brewery, but I'm not going to walk away with absolutely nothing like could happen if I was setting up my own stuff on those days. So spoiler alert, I don't get an hourly rate working for myself. I just try to make whatever I get work. And listen, we made it through another year, and that's all I can ask. But yeah, things picked up a bit after September. I did Granite Con, which is always my biggest event of the year, and that kind of jump-started the absolutely unhinged round of markets I did between then and like a week ago. I also do some costumey type stuff, so it makes sense I had a lot of sales. To be completely honest, it was basically my Howl's Moving Castle cardigan custom orders that got me through this whole year as far as like Etsy sales, because that was a very big chunk of my income from Etsy for the year. But with income on Etsy comes fees with Etsy. So here's a little pie chart as far as how much they took out of all of my sales. And this is not including shipping. Shipping is a separate thing. So that's also a chunk taken out of this, which I suppose I should have accounted for. Keep that in mind when you're looking at this. And of course, there are so many other expenses, which I didn't dive into. I'm just kind of breaking down income streams that I have and then accompanying bits of data because I thought it would be fun to look at. Thankfully, I get a lot of my Etsy sales from all y'all that already follow me, but it is nice that the other half of sales I get is basically from them using Etsy as a search engine and some of my stuff popping up there. It's kind of a crapshoot a lot of the time, but that is like part of the service they provide, so I can't actually be harping on them too much. All that being said, it does still sting a bit seeing it mapped out like this. Now let's jump over to my square income charts, which this covers my alterations nights. That's how people pay me for those. And then my in-person markets. And I didn't start doing the alterations till like late summer. So those are some of the only bits of income I accrued in those like mid-summer months. I did put together a Valentine's Day market at the brewery like very beginning of February. So that's what that little spike is from. But otherwise, those first couple months of the year, not a lot going on. Then a similar dip like middle of spring, and then I started doing a round of outdoor markets that like I didn't not make any sales or anything, but for how much it costs, which we'll get to in a minute, to attend those events, I was definitely disappointed in a lot of them. Now, some of it was weather related, some of it was just poorly run events, which were deeply upsetting because I had very high expectations for one of the events, and I'm just gonna get upset if we talk about it again. I don't need to be mad about anything. It's over. It's fine. They never responded to any of my emails asking follow-up questions, but you know, that's information I can use going forward when I'm deciding what events to do and not do, which is part of the help of looking at these charts. It's like actually reviewing the data I accrued throughout the year. I never really end up doing it. It was always like, this part of the year in my gut felt like it was a good part of the year, right? And actually that spike in June is from me starting my alterations nights, and people first found out like, oh wait, you do this kind of stuff. So there's a big influx of orders from that. And by orders, I mean like people brought me piles of pants to hem, dresses and stuff like that. I'll say my very first garment I altered for someone at my first alterations night, it was a Thursday night, and someone brought their bridesmaid's dress for a wedding that was Saturday morning. So it was definitely something I should have charged more for, considering what it was. It was just an absolute pain to do. Bridesmaids' dresses are never made out of reasonable to work with material. But anyways, slow down in August, makes sense. I took a week-long vacation to go visit some friends in the middle of nowhere sometime around then, and then August I think is the busiest month for brewery events for me. Then we came back strong with Granite Con in September, and then that trickled along to some other events leading into October. I did a number of spooky bitch type markets, and that's definitely my people that go to those things. November was on the quieter side, but then obviously you see a massive spike in December, and I made more sales than I've ever made in one day in December. And I think just like month total income, the most I've ever made. Obviously that is money I pay myself back with for being in the hole from the previous couple months. So it's not like I'm rolling in it or anything. I'm just not in a pile of debt at the moment, which feels really good because also this summer, in addition to all of the other things, I purchased a industrial sewing machine, which was like $1,500. It's gonna last me a really long time, hopefully. So very glad I did that. But I finally like paid off what little balance was left from those types of purchases. Because also there's a lot of material cost that goes into making my stuff. Granted, I do try to use a lot of upcycled materials and just stuff other people were gonna throw out, other people's de-stashes. But in order to make a lot of the things that I do, there's like accompanying hardware and vinyl for the side pockets on the sling bags, notions and interfacing and stuff like that that I buy by the bolt now. I will say The one thing about December is that yes, I did really great at almost all of them. I had my best ever market, and that was exactly 1 week after my worst ever event ever in the history of my business, because I didn't make a single sale that day. Or even back when I was first starting, I would sell some stuff, but one customer showed up to this pop-up that there were like 10 vendors at. I had a budget set aside to do some Christmas shopping, so I was able to go and support them, which felt really good. But yeah, it was not good having that happen. I think that was on Black Friday. Not my favorite. So I kind of needed that win, with the following market being my most successful one. Thank goodness it all evened out, and we got to end the year on a really high note, and that feels spectacular. I can breathe. And if you're wondering what are the fees for doing Square, this is the pie chart for that, which is not lovely to look at. The one caveat here is doing in-person events means I have lower fees to pay, how I'm taking payment. But those things also come with table fees, which obviously is a huge chunk of that profit gone. And that is what I try to focus on when I'm doing an event, is just earn table back. Plus there's parking and there's gas, where doing Etsy is from my home. Yes, I pay shipping on top of the fees that they already take. And I do sometimes have to run that up to the post office. They're not called Square events. It's just I use my Square reader at the events. So that's why the pie charts are as they are. And I've accidentally kind of categorized them as Square events. So obviously both of these graphs are really inconsistent. There's like not a very stable flow of things. Like I said, I had the uniform store job through May, and that was somewhat consistent, but I was getting paid what is minimum wage in other states, not actually getting that many hours. So it is nice to know that I was able to just hustle a little bit harder on my own business things to recoup whatever income I was losing from losing that job. I gotta say, we did it. Honestly, I think the alterations nights I've been doing, especially since it's essentially the same kind of work I was doing, but I'm paying myself a lot better for it. So I don't get a ton of things, but I'm not breaking my back for pennies per pair of pants that I'm hemming. That was too many P words in a row. My brain glitched. Super tumultuous, obviously, but this is what brings me to the most important part of my income to me. The thing I'm most proud of, the thing that feels the best, is this is my Patreon income chart. There's like a little variation. The only big discrepancy is when there's an increase in it and then it stays. There's a tiny bit of fluctuation. It's probably between like $5 and $25 difference for that little peak there. I think it's $5 down at the moment, but that's not going to make or break me. This here shows you what I mean when I say I'm getting to do all of this because of you all. This is why I don't have to be in a panicked heap on the floor if I don't have a good market, because I have some safety net here. And I know you're not promising me this forever. In case you're wondering what kind of impact it does have on my life, them's the cold hard facts, baby. You have a fantastic impact, and I can never thank you enough for it. Like, how do you put into words how much that means to me? Just if you're curious, if you have Patreon or not, this is also interesting to see the numbers, but this is what that breakdown looks like as far as the fees they take, which isn't nothing, but it's still less than Etsy. Y'all are basically paying me for doing what I'm already doing, which is the videos. I do have the mail time perk tier, which I am going to be working on zines later this week, and then the custom shit tier folks. Like, those are physical items that I send out to everybody, and having all your names come up on the screen, it's lovely for me to see, because it's like, these are actual people, and some I know in real life, and some I only know through here, and some I haven't even had like actual conversation with or anything, but I know you're here, and it means a lot being able to put a name to the support, if I can't always necessarily put it to a face. So thank you for all of that. All right, and then the chart I'm most excited to have looked at, because I was super curious about this, and there's an asterisk to this that I'll touch on after, but this is my income versus the fees and costs of me acquiring it. As I suspected, Patreon is the biggest chunk of this. It's almost a third of everything. And then a little smaller than that is my Square income, which covers both markets and alterations. And then Etsy is the smaller of the three chunks. Then all the red is the processing fees, transaction fees, parking and table fees. This does not include any shipping fees and doesn't include any materials bought for any of this. It doesn't include the mileage to go to events. It's not including the machine I bought or the printer paper or anything like that. It's not including any of the materials, which obviously is a big chunk of where my money goes. So I didn't have it in me to do like an itemized list of each category, like here's how much I spent on fabric this year. Because also some of the fabric I use is from like years ago. So it's hard to put into a chart like this because maybe the fabric I bought 3 years ago is what I used for all the stuff this summer. It's not easy to equate that, but I will show you as far as like my bookkeeping program, what it says my 2023 income was versus the expenses. This pretty accurately depicts what I walk away with. You know, the income is bigger than the expenses, and that is always a good thing, and that's what I mean when we made it through another year, but it's almost 50-50. This statistic, like flat income versus expenses, because I file my taxes every year, I file quarterly taxes every month. Not every month, every quarter as their quarterly taxes. And also my bookkeeping program says, like at the top of the dashboard, every time I go to log a transaction, the screen I start from tells me this is your net profit for the year, and then it'll say like income versus expenses. So that is in my mind, but as far as where all of it came from / where it all went to and the breakdown of it isn't as obvious to me, and I had to do that extra work to kind of figure it all out. So pretty cool to break it all down like this. I actually had a lot of fun. It's very satisfying putting these all together yesterday. Normally math kind of overwhelms me, but especially seeing the Patreon thing, because like I feel like I don't grow it that much. I don't even know like how people go about doing that. And I'm just so thankful that like that support has stayed consistent for so long. Like so many of you have been here for years, and I cannot express to you how helpful it is. For example, I mentioned earlier I have a single event this month, and I have been referring to it as a low risk event, which just means to me it's a low investment to participate. So it's a $25 table fee. I won't have to pay for parking, and it's a 30-minute drive each way. So whatever the mileage breakdown for that is. Versus the mammoth investment that is GraniteCon for 2024. I just bought my table, and just the cheapest possible option is just a 6-foot artist alley space, and is just shy of $300. And that's typically not something I can just throw away and use on something frivolous, but I have this consistent cushion every month coming in. I kind of have like a security blanket. I feel comfortable enough risking the $300 to hopefully make that back and more, but it's not like I have had to take out a loan to do this or anything. So hopefully that was cool to see. Oh, the other little tidbit I figured you might be interested in is what were my best sellers. Howl's Moving Castle cardigans on Etsy, easily the best seller. It's the biggest ticket item, but I also sold a bunch of them. I think I sold like 11 this year. Very fun to make. I've enjoyed making every single one, which is nice because sometimes you do custom things for people and it's not super fun to do. As far as in-person markets, hands down, my sling bags, which Kim, thank you so much for suggesting that pattern. It is a free pattern from Swoon Patterns, I believe. I'll put a link down below if you want to check it out for yourself. They are still so fun to make. I have a pile of like 6 that are pressed and interfaced and ready to assemble, and I've been like chomping at the bit to get back into it, but I didn't let myself sew in that purgatory week between Christmas and New Year's. Just let myself rest a little bit, but I've obviously been doing a lot of other things like figuring out backgrounds and new lighting and making pie charts like you do. Okay, we're done doing math things, and I do want to tell you about some plans I have for the immediate future. But while I am doing that, let's do a quick little office tour in my new space that I'm so excited about. I have this setup for doing photography because I'm near a window instead of just hiding in my cave all the time. I also purchased a desk, so I have like an editing station up here. That way, like, it's near the kitchen, so I can cook stuff and be nearby and have just my own little space there. And also there's a wood stove upstairs that I can now reap the benefits of. Bert already has his little spot next to me. He curled up right away. He basically just needs a giant blanket and he's good for the day. Goals for all of 2024 is obviously just like keep growing everything, but at a sustainable rate. Like, I don't want anything to get too out of hand. I want to take more breaks because I'm very bad at doing that, and it shows. At this very moment, all I want to do is make more slings, and people seem to be loving them, and then I get feedback from people after they've been wearing it for a while that they get a ton of compliments, which also means on my list of things I want to do this year is get tags for the bags, because I don't have my name on any of that stuff, and I am so sorry if that horrifies all of you. Genuinely used to make me panic thinking about someone knowing it was from me, as if it was gonna just like explode one day and not work anymore. But that's not how bags work, and I have grown my skills over the years, so like I can say they're well made. It's okay. Yeah, definitely want to sew more of those. I have a bunch of keychain bags, and I will be turning a good chunk of them into the dog bag holder bags that are like on a keychain for your leash for your pet. And then Scott Pilgrim is an evergreen love for me, but I think because the new anime came out on Netflix, I believe, I haven't seen it yet. I'm like holding off for some reason. There's been a resurgence of interest in that world of characters, and I have been getting messages about my Ramona Flowers bags, either the video tutorials. Someone very sweet messaged me that they had used the tutorial to make a bag for their partner for Christmas. It came out beautifully. I hope they loved it, and just what a nice thing to tell me. Like, he didn't have to do that, but he made a point to just let me know that it helped him make a thing he didn't know how to do otherwise. So that was really nice. I kind of want to make another version of the bag, update it. Like, I think I just want to use foam for real this time instead of just the fusible fleece, because it'll have that bit more structure and like really hold that shape, because it's a tough shape to hold anyway. Likewise, I want to make more structured bags, just like purses in general. I am currently prototyping a, like, the Target camera bags everybody gets hyped about. It's just like a little zippered bag you can wear like over the shoulder or crossbody, or I think just like as a fanny pack. There's a whole multitude of options. So that is currently in the works. I haven't touched it in a couple months, but we'll be circling back to it, or at least I will be circling back to it, and you will be finding out about it for the first time. But you know, tomato, tomato. I also want to do mini backpacks, and not that this is mutually exclusive from all these other things, but I want to make more self-printed fabric. I have some new lino block designs I want to work on. Those are always fun. I love carving the lino blocks. It's just like coming up with a design that I like enough, because I don't have a ton of confidence in my drawing abilities, but I've had some things work out pretty well for what I pictured in my head, being pretty close to what ends up coming out at the end. And I genuinely cannot wait to share the journey, all aspects of it with y'all. I so appreciate you being along for the ride. I will see you back here in 1 or 2 weeks and see how I'm feeling. Thank you so much for hanging out. Just waiting for the furnace to quiet down. Or at least I will be circling back to it. Oh cool, all this effort with the microphone, and I don't think it was recording that entire time. Okay, well,